Hello friends, module is Geography of Dark Age in Europe. The historical period from 350 to 1350 CE is treated as Dark Age in Europe because it was dark period for the development of science and geographical ideas. With the death of Marcus Aurelius in 180 CE, the period of beneficent imperial rule came to an end. The Roman Empire declined after 180 CE, but it did not collapse. The transition from the ancient to the medieval period was gradual, and many medieval ideas and ways more slowly emerged in the West as early as the 3rd century CE. The period from 3rd to 7th century, although transitional, had certain themes of its own and is perhaps best described as neither Roman nor medieval but as the age of late antiquity. Among the Greeks and Romans, the period of Ptolemy definitely marked the highest point to which geographical science ever reached. Scholars made accurate but sterile copies of the works of the ancients, rejecting anything which did not conform with the dogmas of the Church. Such an intellectual environment stifled any development with the dogmas of the Church and development of critical scientific analysis. Concepts of the world which had been developed in the Greek and the Roman times were reshaped to conform to the teachings of. During this period, Christianity had dominated the mind of people, and they were not allowed by the Church to raise scientific questions. The attitude of most Christian writers at that time was not calculated to promote any form of scientific inquiry, according to Majid Hussain, 2002. The Church treated cosmography less valuable because Moses, the servant of God, had said nothing concerning the shape and circumference of the earth. During the 5th century CE, the Roman Empire suffered demise. The central administration had greatly weakened, and consequently the constituent territories gradually became independent. As trade and commerce declined, the geographic horizons of the people rapidly narrowed down, so that with the passage of time, the geographical horizon of most people in Christendom became confined to their immediate surroundings. Given the extremely narrow worldview of contemporary European societies, it was natural that religious orthodoxy should increase. Before long, scriptures had begun to be regarded as the ultimate repository of knowledge of every kind, so that an impression was created that there was no need to learn anything outside the holy books. Anything that did not conform with the truth of the scriptures was regarded as the product of a perverse mind and had accordingly to be rejected. Under these conditions, science and therefore geography could not develop, and the Middle Ages represented the Dark Age in the history of scientific knowledge in Europe. During this long period, scientific concepts developed by the ancient Greeks were reshaped with a view to make them conform with the truth preached by the Church. For example, the idea of spherical Earth was abandoned in the favor of the old concept of the Earth of a flat disk, Jerusalem at the center. This dismissal of state of affairs continued almost until the end of the 12th century CE. Around 200 CE, the Roman Empire began to decline. There were many causes for the decline of the empire, such as corrupt rulers, frequent outbreak of civil wars, infighting among soldiers, and so on. The chief cause for the decline was the attack by the Germanic tribes such as Visigoths, Ostrogoths, Vandals, and Franks. The Romans called them barbarians. They plundered the treasures, killed and enslaved many Romans, and destroyed many buildings. The final blow came in 476 ACE when a barbarian chief called Odoacer made himself the king of Italy and forced the last emperor of Rome to give up his crown. Many historians considered this to be the end of the Roman Empire. By around 500 CE, the barbarians had carved out their own independent kingdoms and settled down. The largest barbarian kingdom was created by the Franks. As in the picture, parts of the Roman Empire, example Dacia, Gaul, and Spain, passed into barbarian hands. North Africa was seized by the Vandals. Consequently, travel within the empire was hazardous. The Middle and Far East almost entirely passed into the hands of Persian, Arabs, or Abyssinians. Moreover, the northern overland route through the Darel Pars as Khan by way of Caspian to Central Asia was too insecure for even the most adventurous. Apart from the political instability, the decline of theoretical study was geography due to the wrong thinking. The attitude of most Christian writers at that time was not calculated to promote any form of scientific inquiry. Any scientific investigation about the shape and size of the earth was discouraged. The church started saying cosmography is less valuable. Because Moses, the servant of God, has said cosmography, nothing concerning the shape and circumference of the earth. As in the picture, you can see that the whole of the Roman Empire in about 395 CE, it was split into the Western Roman Empire and Eastern Roman Empire. The Western Roman Empire declined in the face of repeated barbarian invasions. The Eastern Roman Empire, known as Byzantine, survived for another 1,000 years. Its capital was Constantinople. The Byzantine Empire enjoyed a strategic location which enabled rulers to exploit the trade routes between Asia and Europe. Under able rulers such as Justinian I, the Byzantine Empire became one of the wealthiest in the world. Justinian I not only introduced a new system of laws, he also built many churches, including the famous Hagia Sophia. The death of the Justinian I exposed the Byzantine Empire to attacks from Goths, Huns, Vikings, Arabs, and Normans. It was in such a weakened state that the empire was attacked by the Ottoman Turks, thus the end of the Roman Empire. After the fall of the Roman Empire in the 5th century CE, there were very few kings in Europe who could afford to maintain a long-standing army. So the kings granted portions of land to nobles, and in return, the nobles promised loyalty and protection. Raise an army of knights and fight for the kings to the kings. The kings became the lords and the nobles became their vassals. The peasants on the land of the knights and nobles in return for protection against enemy attacks. This system system of granting land on condition of service was called feudalism. The hierarchy of feudalism is given in the picture. During this period, not even a single work of originality in any scientific field was written. This period was characterized by continuous deterioration both in the geographical thought and the practice of exploration from the glories of Greek and Roman periods. The decay and disintegration of Roman Empire led to the decline in literature, science and explorations in the European and Southwest Asian parts of the world. This, however, does not mean that geographical knowledge at that time did not flourish in China, India and Southeast Asia. Of course, Dark Age was limited to Europe only. During the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church was the dominant religion in the Western Europe. Without a common government in Europe, the Catholic Pope became an independent political leader. In conclusion, we can say that barbarian invasions caused the fall of the Roman Empire, rise of the new kingdom states that were not united. New kingdoms were unable to protect themselves from barbarian invasions, causing a need for localized protection. Trade declined due to the violent political conditions. Rise and spread of the feudalism, which lasted in various forms across Europe for hundreds of years, caused the Rome a city of ruins. Thus, the period of about 500 years which followed the publication of Ptolemy's Geographica, an age of turmoil, complication, and abridgment. During this period, religion had dominated the mind of people, and they were not allowed by the church to raise scientific questions. Romans also could not contribute anything new. At best, scholars of this period made accurate but sterile copies of the works of the ancients, rejecting anything which did not conform to the dogmas of the church. Some significant contributors to geography during the Dark Age: Solinus, Firmianus, Pomponius Mela, and Cosmos of Alexandria. First scholar is Solinus. Solinus flourished in the 3rd century CE and provided a general geographical account of the world. He compiled a volume named the Collective Rerum Memorabilium, the collection of the wonderful matters. Even though it was not original, but Solinus collected a number of wonderful things and attempted to set them in the geographical framework in which they were set. For this reason, Solinus is considered as a plagiarist of Pliny. Another scholar of this Dark Age period is Firmianus. He was a leading protagonist of Christianity in 4th century CE. He denied the idea of Earth's spherical shape. He argued that neither the Earth was a sphere nor a spherical sky could necessitate a spherical Earth. To him, the idea of the possibility of antipodes was completely absurd. Firmianus accepted an ideal pattern in his mind and concentrated on artistic and symbolic expressions. Another scholar of this period is Pomponius Mela. He was the last important historian and geographer of Roman tradition. Having military training and experience, Mela was also the last among the scholars who recognized the value of geography in relation to history and defense. Ptolemy's ideas and tradition, like the geocentric chart, being the Earth in the center of the universe, accepted accepted the geocentric theory, which believed that the Earth is the center of the solar system. So as the Pomponius Mela. Pomponius Mela had many valuable works and books in Spanish Latin language, of which three have much importance. First is cosmography. He described universe in detail in this book, and also related to the description of Earth's planetary relations. He accepted the Earth is in the center of the. Another book of Pomponius Mela is De Geographia. The book is divided into 5 major zones: the torrid zone, northern temperate zone, southern temperate zone, northern cold zone, and southern cold zone. The special emphasis is given on the northern temperate zone. This book also includes the geographical tours of Mela. Another of this Pomponius Mela is Calyx. It includes the brief geographical description of the known world. In this book, he described that the Earth had 2 poles. One is North Pole, another is South Pole. He also described that out of 5 major zones of the Earth, only 2, Northern Temperate Zone and the Southern Temperate Zone, are habitable for human population, as in the picture. There is a torrid equatorial climate, known lands and the antipodes, and the polar areas being the frozen climate. The first picture in the ranges the Pomponius Mela's book cover of 1518 CE. And many geographers after the Pomponius Mela accepted these 5 climatic zones given by him, such as Somnium Scipionius Macrobius, a Roman general in 1150 CE. Another geographical scholar is Cosmas. Cosmas of Alexandria in 6th century CE wrote his book Christian Topography about 550 CE, in which he refuted about all the pro-Christianity views of geography. In early life, Cosmas was a merchant and traveled fairly a wide area. He visited Indian Ocean, Persian Gulf, Socotra, Ceylon, Sri Lanka, and Ethiopia. His book includes many absurd ideas. He presented the earth flat, bounded on all sides by strong, as in the picture. According to him, the semi-spherical sky is cosmos. His book, Christian Topography, could not on any matter later scholars in the field of geography. In the picture, the world map given by Cosmos includes the Red Sea by the name Arabacus Simus, and the Persian Gulf by the name Persicus Sinus, and the Sinistra Manus, the Roman lake, the Mediterranean Sea of today, the Tigris and the Euphrates River also be in picture. During the Dark Age, the period of Christian Europe, there was a continuous deterioration in the art of map making. Completely dominated by Christian supernaturalism, the cartographers of this age made no serious attempt to show the actual position of the world. As early as the 4th century CE, the world map of Romans had been Christianized by the great church father Saint Jerome, who made a map in which he exaggerated the Holy Land beyond all real proportions by Majid Hussain 2002. Saint Peter's, a Spanish monk in 8th century, prepared a version of the old Roman map. Later, Persons who copied it paid not much respect to its geographical contents. The oval shape of the map was also frequently distorted to the form of a rectangle or a circle. During the Dark Ages, cartography of map making languished as old geography. Maps of that period were prepared with the literal interpolation of the Bible, which refers to the four corners of the earth. This was the period of T-in-O maps, designated with the orientation towards the east, Jerusalem at the center, and the whole inside a circular ocean. It was an inhabited land area that was divided into three major parts: Asia, Europe, and Africa. The Mediterranean Sea at the top, the Jerusalem, the Holy Land of Christians, at the center, and the whole inside a circular ocean. It was known as Orbis Terrarum, which was oriented towards east. Water body seas were arranged in T-shaped in the middle of the land areas. The top of the T represented Aegean and Black Sea. Aegean and Black Sea on the left hand, and the Red Sea on the right hand, while the stem of T represented the Mediterranean Sea. Just above the center of T, the center of the inhabited world, was occupied by Jerusalem, the holy place of Christians. At the far east, beyond the limit of the inhabited world, was paradise. James and Martin book, All Possible Words, 1981. Moreover, in all such maps, many mythical places, beasts and dragons were also inserted, which were non-believing menaces to the Christian world. In Dark Age, the Christian monks tried to prove the concepts of Greeks and Romans as pseudo-scientific. The east, west, and north-south extent of the world was not clear. The Greek and Roman scholars were completely ignored in the Dark Age. New theories were postulated and raised on the basis of less understood Christian spiritual, yes, scriptural text, which had nothing definite on the subject. Geography in the Christian period of the medieval world appears to have very much relied upon Ptolemy's works and ideas, but very little attempts were made to revive the Greek tradition in geography. Christian scholars of the period had different interpretations of Ptolemy's works, and their opinions differed on various aspects of Ptolemy's geographic ideas. In conclusion, written by About the Dark Age, the German scholar Kimitz summarizes: new countries were not discovered. The empire became smaller, not greater. Trade relations, thanks to the war in the east, the south, and the north, became more and more restricted. Besides, there was no longer any question of research in industry and of the spirit of discovery. Thus, the only books that were put together were compilations from older works. But Dark Age of Geography in history, was it a really dark age in the context of the evolution of geographical ideas? Think about it. Here I leave you with this question. I will be answering it in the next video. Stay tuned. Now comes to visit here more often. Be safe, be healthy.